So we're doing another engine rescue video, but this is a little different because I'm rescuing my own engine. That there's me 20 some years ago with the first engine I ever purchased with my own money and restored by myself. That's my senior picture from 2006, so literally 20 years ago is the last time that thing is run. And why is that, you say? Well, look where it is. All the way back there. So that's going to be today's adventure, is rescuing my 6-horse International and getting it drug back out and running again. And you're probably wondering how I'm going to do that. Well, it's definitely not by moving all this crap. I'm going to take advantage of the siding getting replaced on this building that this is in and pull this thing out the back wall. So the plan of attack here is I'm going to take these 3 sheets off. The engine's sitting right in there. Get this end wall off and get that thing drug out. And of course, I pick a nice rainy day to do this, but got to make do with what you got. I'm going to get it out and drug out of the way here, throw a tarp over it until a nice sunny day, and this new siding can get put on for Dad. Once it dries up, I'm gonna have to take it, I think, down this way, and as you can see, there's a little, it's steeper than what you think. I'm going to take it down that way and out and get it out to the road where I can load it on a trailer. So I bought this engine in 2003, somewhere in there. I was probably about 14. It was all in pieces, and I threw it all back together and got it running, and I couldn't afford a cart at the time, so I built my own, kind of copied what a original International cart would look like, and here I am, all happy with my creation. But yeah, like I said, this was something I did before I even had my driver's license. Gave her a nice slick paint job and made it look all pretty and run nice, and yeah, lots happened in 20 years. It's kind of nice to get this thing back out and show it again. It's amazing how much crap you can accumulate over the years. Gonna make myself sound old, but there she be. It's been 20 years since you've seen daylight. But no, seriously, definitely been 20 years. Neat engine, clean up nice. Did a nice little paint job on her, put some hardener and Quality Farm Fleet's best paint they had at the time. So yeah, should clean up and run nice, I hope. So I think I'm going to do, let's get this thing up to the edge here, and I got to come along there. I'm going to hook to it and get this thing kicked over, since the steering's on the other end. Get the end that doesn't steer kicked over and kind of point it in the direction that I want it to go, and then hopefully be able to walk it out on these ramps. If not, I can come along to that tree and drag it if I can't push it. But yeah, we're going to get it up and over and then out. I know this may be a shock to many of you, but I'm about to run into something here. So I'm going to need to either get that engine scooted over or get the one I'm pulling out scooted over. I don't know. I guess we'll figure out which one looks easier. But she's at least out, making progress on it. Well, I got her home to my shop now. And I'll use about any excuse to use my new favorite toy, the grapple truck, to you know, unload this thing, get it set over. So I'm gonna get that done and get this thing inside, give her a bath, and then we'll go through and see what she's going to need to get running again. Well, now we got her inside. It's time to get diving into what's wrong and right and what doesn't work anymore after sitting for 20 years. If I haven't mentioned already, this is a 6 horsepower International Model M flywheel engine. It uses the throttle governed style of governing on it, so it doesn't really make it a hit and miss engine, even though it looks like one, like what people consider a hit and miss engine. That has a hit and miss governor on it. This has a throttle govern on it. What I mean by that is there is a butterfly valve inside the head, carburetor, mixer here. We know them as mixers in this engine world, but your carburetor's here. You've got a butterfly valve inside the head that goes back to this long shaft that goes to where the governor is. And then the governor controls the engine speed by lifting up on that, allowing air and fuel in, and regulates the speed of the engine that way. Where a hit miss engine actually latches out the exhaust and lets it coast until it demands power again. So quick rundown on what hit miss throttle governed engine is. Anyway, so this thing ran when parked, and well, that was 20 years ago. I got to remember everything that I did in those 20 years that would not make it run. What I mean by that is I do remember taking this linkage off. This linkage is part of the ignition system. It goes forward, and this is what we call an igniter. It trips this, and there's a set of points inside the head that open and close. It trips that, opening and closing those points and making this thing spark inside the head, and that causes your ignition. I remember taking this off and making a drawing of it for somebody that needed to copy it, and I don't know if I put it back in the right spot. Luckily, International Harvester was smart, and they have timing marks on the flywheel here for your intake and your exhaust that you mark up with the little notcher on the base. And they even give you a cool little diagram on the tag up here. So I need to check that. And then I don't know if 16-year-old Chase ever put the Magneto, which is right here, what's what makes your spark for the igniter, if I ever put it in time correctly. I may have just thrown it on there because I remember when I used to run this thing, I had to set it up to battery and coil to get it to run slow, which it should run slow on that, but it would only run off the mag if it was running at a higher RPM than what I ran it at. So I'm going to pull the Magneto off and correctly put it in time, and I'll explain how to do that when I get to that. But I'll correctly put it in time, or at least check to make sure it is in time, to eliminate that. Adjust that rod, and then I doubt I ever drained the gas out the gas tank on this thing, so this thing's probably got varnished gas in it. And it does have a fuel pump on it, which is right here, just a little plunger pump, a couple little check valve balls in there. Probably need to clean that out. These carburetors or mixers, they drain back into the tank, so there shouldn't be anything in there. And this was originally a kerosene engine. It would have ran off of kerosene. You had gas, water, and kerosene. The water is to cool cylinder temperatures when it's run on kerosene to keep it from knocking. You would start it on gasoline on this side. This bowl's divided. You'd start it on gasoline, get it warm, then switch it over to kerosene, and it would run on kerosene. Back in the day, kerosene was cheaper to run these engines on, so they made a lot of these engines on kerosene. Valves and everything should be good. No reason to really take the head off. Should be fairly simple to get this thing going. Fingers crossed. But I'm going to get it running first, and then I'm going to give her a bath. But yeah, that's I think that's going to be the first step, is checking the timing on it. Well, it'll be pretty quick to tell if this thing's in time or not. I'm just going to spin it over, and this rod, like I said, needs to go forward. And when this notch on the ignition is lined up with the notch on the base, this thing should be tripping. So, see how close we are. Should be tripping there. So we're quite a bit off. So like I said, this thing's firing early. No, firing late. So I need to adjust this rod out to get it the timing to retard and come back to where it needs to fire. Pretty simple. It's got a little set screw here, got it loosened up, and this jam nut. Got this loosened up, and I can move this rod forward and backwards. So what I'm going to do is get this thing up to where it needs to fire. And see where we're at. Oh, yep. So right there's where she's firing at. So I need to bring it back to about there. So I need to make this thing fire sooner. So I want to adjust it out and see what we got here by making this shaft longer. It should retard the timing. Let's see if I'm right. Oh, right on the money. Right on the money. So I'm going to call it good. Tighten this stuff up because I don't want it moving. Put my little spring back on. And just to make sure. Perfect. Should run there. So it's been a minute since I've worked on this, obviously. And I had it in my head that I could just undo the two bolts that hold the bottom of the mag on, and it would slide out. Well, that ain't the case. So I got to go in through the back here, inside the crankcase, take the nut that keeps the gear on off, so I can pull this off and then get everything in time. Now we'll have a little look inside the crankcase here. Kind of a greasy nightmare. But the gear I'm talking about is the one, the very tippy top left up there. Just got a nut that holds that gear onto the shaft, so I'll take that off, be able to check the timing of the mag, and throw it back in, and then put the nut back on gear. But it looks like I'm going to get a little bit greasy. Right now it'd be kind of handy to have one of them artificial insemination gloves on. You know, the ones that go all the way up to your shoulder. Oh well. Okay. There's the gear. I think I lost the lock washer, but I think I can find it. There we go. Well, after I got the Magneto off, I realized that the mag's marked right here. It shows essentially where the timing of the mag is. Didn't really need to pull the mag off since it's marked there. Not all these rotary style mags are like that. Sometimes they're marked on the gear and you have to time it off of the gear. But International, in their infinite wisdom, go red, had it marked here. So I could have left this thing on there and checked the timing, but whatever. It's off now. But how these things work is, as far as the timing goes, is you want, when this thing's spinning, the magnets and the armature inside braking at the same time that the igniter is tripping, and that's where you get your most juice, is when those magnetic pulls are breaking as this thing's spinning to get the best spark out of it, and that's why it's marked on the end here. So it was kind of pointless to take this off. I could have checked this on the engine, but whoa. But now that it's off, I might give her a little bit of a cleaning and throw it back on. I probably should throw it on the magnet charger, but I guess I'm going to throw it back on and see if it'll run. And then it's not that hard to take off. So if I have to take it off and charge the magnets on it, that's what I'll do. Well, do you remember how I said this diagram showed how to time the engine? But yeah, it also shows how to time the mag. I never said reading was my strong suit, but like it says, exactly in line when just tripping, which would be the igniter tripping when the piece on the mag there is on line with the marks. So that's where I got her. She's back on, and I'll spin this thing over. You pay attention to the marks on the end of the mag and listen for the trip, and they correspond. So that's when it's in time. All right, so we got maybe the ignition figured out, and we're going to move on to the fuel system. Hopefully. That tank sounds pretty empty, so I might be lucked out here on the varnished gas situation. But I'm going to pop open the drain here and just make sure that I ain't going to have a problem. Well, there's some sludge in there. Let's see what we got. Try this piece of dowel. There's a little bit in there, not much. We'll let that drain. Maybe flush it out with some fresh. All right, so you may be able to tell I might be getting a little bit impatient. I got gas in the tank now, and I piddled with the fuel pump, trying to pump some fuel up into the carburetor. Not sure if it's pumping or not, and I really don't feel like taking it apart. So it's pot metal, and it looks like me or somebody in the past has already had some pliers to work on this check ball. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing running on the starting bowl here, and while it's running, fingers crossed, maybe the fuel pump will free up. And I also have it hooked up to battery and coil because I know it used to start easier that way. And then I have the mag also hooked up. I'll switch it over if it starts running and see if it runs on the mag and see if I have it set up right. So, I guess I'm going to try giving her a whirl and see if she takes it. Alright, here goes nothing, I guess. It'd help if the mag was tripping. That's a good sign. All right, let's see here. Running a little rich. I don't think it's pumping fuel yet. Give it the old tappy tap. Well, the fuel pump's pumping fuel now, but it's leaking out at the top. It's leaking out up here. So I'm going to have to tear it apart and put a little gasket on the very tippy top of that, focus, on the very tippy top of that, and should be in business, but it's pumping fuel now, so that's more than what we had. So right there's the top of the fuel pump. Piece that's been marred to death. As you can tell, gasket's pretty bad. And if you look down in the fuel pumps, if I can get a good, there we go, that little white dot in the center of it, well, that's a check ball. And all this thing is just a little piston right there. It's got checks on either end of it to push the fluid up into the carburetor / mixer. So pretty simple, kind of cruddy looking down in there. So I'm going to flush this out and make a new gasket for it. That should have us back in business for this thing to run on its own, other than the mag, which I still think has some issues. Like I mentioned, the mag's still got some issues, so I'm going to pull it back off and throw it in the magnet charger and give the magnets a zap and get some more energy back in them, throw it back on. And hopefully that'll fix my issue there. I don't think there's much wrong with that mag. It looks like it was rebuilt at one time. So I want to get that done, throw it back on, and then we'll fire this thing back up and see if it will run on the mag. And I get that done, I'll give this thing a bath and get it run again and do some glamour shots for you. Mag's back on, so I'm going to give her a test. Pretty simple to do that. Here's the wire that's going down to the battery and coil, which we know it runs on. Here's the wire that's coming off of the lead on the Magneto. So once I get this thing run on battery and coil, I'll unhook it and plug this in here, and if it takes off and runs, we know the mag's good, and I can give this thing a bath. All right, running on battery and coil right now. Get it dialed in to where it ain't going to die. All right, say we're good there. I'm going to take this lead off of here, put that on. Hey, that's all I needed, just needed a little recharge with the magnets. Yeah, now she's running as she should. She's a beaut, Clark. Man, she cleaned up nice. Pretty much as good as the day I painted it. I'm not going to yak too much here. I'm going to get this thing fired up so we can do some glamour video. The money shot. This thing running. Because man, does she ever run good. And I went the extra mile and put a nice little braided looking wire on the mag. And it runs on the mag. I never did that before. So it's I guess runs better than it used to. Better than new. I don't know. Whatever. I'm going to shut up and get this thing running. So if you're curious what RPM this thing's running, I got a little RPM gauge here. I'm going to stick one into the crankshaft and we'll be able to see. Looks like right around 160, if I'm reading that right. Not too shabby. But I'll tell you, listening to this thing run brings back a lot of memories. You know, I'm 37 now, and I put this thing back together when I was like 14 or 15, so quite a few years have passed. I've had a whole career at a railroad, many engines, as you've seen on this channel, and it's just kind of cool to have kept this one and get it dug out, and it looks just as good as it did the day I painted it. Happy I did this. Really happy I did this. And I'm hoping you enjoyed this. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and like and all that yada yada for the YouTube algorithm. And comment what you thought of this. It's a little bit different from what I normally do. And I hope you did enjoy it. Like I said, like it, subscribe it, comment. Helps the channel grow. I am trying to grow it. I want to get to 100,000 so I get that YouTube plaque that says 100,000 subscribers. And until next time, as I always say, go out and get your hands dirty.